A lot of us are not paying attention to what's actually going on weather-wise in the South. And why do I say that? Because the NOAA has given an official extreme El Nino advisory. And their thought process on this super El Nino is in fact that it is already on its way and already in parts of Texas. Just think about it. They've had flooding all week. Now here comes the extreme heat. And this is a warning right here that's been issued for tomorrow for the San Antonio, Texas area. An extreme heat warning and heat advisory is in effect Thursday from noon to 8 p.m. The heat will climb as high as 115 degrees. And this forecast goes through tomorrow, Thursday, all the way through Tuesday. Take a look at some of the heat indexes they're going to experience for the upcoming week. And these warnings have been issued for almost the entire state of Texas. And according to the NOAA, this could be one of the hottest summers ever recorded. And their claim is that severe weather will be seen all across the United States of America. And the last time it was this bad was 1877. And here are the heat indexes for Texas tomorrow. Imagine what it's going to be with a super El Nino over the summer. And if you don't know what a super El Nino is, go look it up for yourself. The claim is also that on the west coast of the United States, typhoons could actually be seen, and record amount rainfall for the south of the United States. And as you've seen from this past week, Texas has already experienced major flooding due to flash floods and non-stop heavy rain. And the NOAA has also made a claim that a lot of the weather that we're about to experience and see over the summer is just not going to be normal. You know, the stuff that you're used to dealing with. And if you need a prime example of how bad a super El Nino can be, take a look at what's going on in Waco, Texas, Central Texas, Austin, Texas, Houston, Texas with the flooding. And now they're going to get the most extreme heat that they've seen in a while. So let me know your thoughts on this in the comments. Are you prepared for a super El Nino? And as always, I'd love to hear from you.
Just a friendly reminder from your off-grid neighbor. This summer is supposed to be super intense because there is supposed to be a super El Nino. And, you know, cooling all these data centers takes a lot of power. They're predicting grids being down, blackouts, the whole thing. Now, I can't say for sure what's going to happen, but what I can say is it's better to be prepared. One of my followers told me yesterday it hit 102 where she lives in California, and they were without electricity for 8.5 hours. Don't get stuck like that. Get yourself a Jackery with a few solar panels, or get yourself a gas generator, particularly one that has a dual fuel system. So if they keep raising gas prices, you can run on propane. The summers are getting hotter, the computers are getting bigger, and more power is required. Our infrastructure just cannot handle it anymore. So don't get caught in the heat this summer. Get prepared now. This is Canvas Tent Living.
See, y'all think this shit is a game. But in case you didn't hear, the NOAA already gave an official Super El Nino advisory. They're saying that it's almost guaranteed that this Super El Nino is coming our way. They're saying that this could be one of the hottest summers in human history. This could be one of the hottest summers ever recorded. Do you understand what that means? They're saying that severe weather will be seen all across the United States of America. And this ain't just a warning for the United States. This is a warning for the whole entire world. Now, if you don't know what a Super El Nino is, you need to go down that rabbit hole. Look up what happened in 1877. We're talking about 50 million people gone just because of extreme weather conditions. We're talking about famine. We're talking about the heat being hotter than it's ever been. And the same thing that those 50 million people lost their lives from in 1877, they're talking about this is going to be happening this summer. I just need you to imagine crop failure everywhere on this whole entire planet. Just imagine a drought everywhere on this planet. Jump down that rabbit hole and look at the similarities between the Pacific Ocean now and the Pacific Ocean in 1877. This is a Super El Nino. They're saying that on the West Coast, they may experience typhoons like they've never seen before. They're saying that the South is going to get rainfall like they never experienced before. We're talking about Louisiana. We're talking about Texas. We're talking about Florida. The NOAA is saying that this is not normal. We may be looking at a world of trouble. All I'll say is this. Look at the patterns. Look how the weather is. Cold one day, hot this day, raining this day, cold. This is almost summertime. Y'all better pay attention.
I lived through the El Nino in the 80s, so I'm qualified to talk about this. I was on the West Coast in California. I was a young lad. It was depressing. We couldn't play outside, and it was torture. Just rain all day and night, all day and night. This time, they're calling it a super El Nino, and I'm in Texas, and we're supposed to start experiencing it the second half of this month all the way through the rest of the year. So they're saying to expect storm after storm. And here in Texas, we get hail, we get tornadoes. It's a lot worse than the storms than we got in California because the El Nino is coming off of the West Coast through California, working its way here. The last time we had an El Nino, Florida had the most tornadoes that they've ever seen. It was record breaking. So prepare yourself. Make sure you have a lot of water sitting around, and maybe canned foods, or whatever way you put food away, because if we go into the winter months and we have those storms here in Texas, it gets cold. We could have ice, we could have snow. I hope I'm wrong. I hope they're wrong, but I made fun of it the last time I posted about it.
Did you know the Super El Nino in 1877 to 78 caused a year without a winter? I'm meteorologist Todd Gross. I'll talk about that and also the famine that killed millions around the world. So as you know, a Super El Nino is on the way, so that by the fall, temperatures off of South America will be way above normal, like to the likes of which we haven't seen in decades. Probably going beyond what we saw in 1997-98, and maybe even what we saw back in 1877 to 1878. Now in that year, it was really weird because it was in the middle of a colder time, and the fact that it warmed up so much that you didn't have a winter in the upper Midwest. It was actually mud and open water rather than frozen lakes and snow on the ground. I mean, it was just totally weird. And what also happened was there was so much drought and so much famine across the world that several 100 million people died. 3% of the world's population. Oh yeah, in fact, in Minnesota, that year without a winter is pretty famous. You can actually look it up and Google it and you'll see it'll come right up. Now, putting the winter of 1877 to 78 aside for a moment, and that Super El Nino, all these other ones as well, the one in 82, 83, 97, 98, 15, 16, those more recent ones also exhibited the same kind of thing. That is, low hurricanes in the Atlantic Basin for the summer, followed by a winter that was extremely mild and extremely snowless in the northern plain states, up in Canada, and even into the Northeast, but especially the upper Midwest. But it also, in almost every case, slammed California over and over and over again with horrific rainstorms. While other parts of the world go dry, not so in California. California in particular, and then that jet stream works across and also causes potentially flooding rains in the southeastern states as well. And that's what may happen this coming winter. Now, for those snow lovers on the East Coast, the only chance you've got is, of course, with all the mild weather in between. If a coastal storm comes spinning up the coast because of that, you may get a snowstorm here and there, but it would melt right away after it falls.
Just because El Nino is here does not mean that hurricanes are not possible. That means that we have a higher probability of there being a less chance of hurricanes forming. But what you guys have to keep in mind and understand, if a hurricane does form, you're talking perfect scenario. Hot water, tons of moisture, a lot of wind shear. So, back to what I said before, just because El Nino is here does not mean hurricanes are not possible. That means if one does form, it's not just going to be a normal run-in-the-mill hurricane. You know, for me personally, and this is my own take on it, this is not a fear-mongering thing, I think if we do get a hurricane, it is going to be a serious freaking Category 5. I don't know if anyone else agrees. If you have input, please share it below. But, like what I said, El Nino does not mean no hurricanes. It means less hurricanes, but stronger ones. You know, maybe like Charlie, maybe like Michael, maybe like Andrew. Hurricane season is here. El Nino is here. Keep that in mind.
You know, it's probably, when I'm out in public, the top thing I'm hearing about, getting questions about El Nino, Super El Nino. What about the El Nino? What does it mean for me? Is it really happening? And most importantly, I think the big question I'm getting is it really going to be that crazy? Now, look, it's predicting the future. There's a lot of buzz around El Nino, and I really do think it's warranted. And here's why. And I think it's really important to talk about. Sometimes there are big weather buzzwords or topics going on that are, frankly, a little bit overinflated. I kind of think about sometimes some of the polar vortex breakouts. I'm like, okay, like it's a little overdone, in my opinion. But when we're talking about this El Nino, we have the potential here for one of the strongest El Ninos on record, and one where we've seen a very dramatic flip from a La Nina to an El Nino, and all that lends to, I think it's safe to say that we're going to be talking about some pretty wacky weather globally this, maybe as early as late this summer, but most likely this fall, and especially for this winter into early next year. And I'm not trying to, I don't know, lend to the frenzy, but I do think it's worth kind of saying directly to you that the buzz and the discussion around El Nino, in my opinion, it's warranted because it's going to be very likely. Most of the modeling now is very consistent, showing that this will likely be one of, if not the strongest event that we've had in the last 100 plus years. So 3 to 4 degrees centigrade above average, that seems to be the benchmark in terms of what we're seeing here from the modeling from the El Nino. And that would have a big impact on global weather. Again, what does that mean? Does that mean it's going to snow 45 inches at your house on December the 21st? Does that mean your house is going to be bone dry or whatever in a few months? We don't know that, obviously. We don't know anything really beyond the fact that I would brace for consistent, active, wacky weather probably this fall and winter, probably globally, weirder and probably more pattern-driven sort of weather for a long period of time. And here in Colorado, the potential here, yes, again, it's not a lock or a guarantee or anything like that, but if you are hoping to get out of this drought, this is certainly something you would want to see, but is it a guarantee? But it is warranted, the buzz around El Nino, in my opinion.
Not the National Weather Service saying that we have entered into El Nino season. And this is going to be a supercharged El Nino season because the Pacific Ocean is almost a full degree warmer. Well, what does that mean? It means we can go swimming in water's warm. No, stupid. That means it's warmer, right? What does warm water do? It evaporates. And when it evaporates, it goes into the atmosphere. It develops into these supercell storms. You know, kind of like the ones we've been having the past couple of days in the Midwest. It's going down out here. But this is going to lead to flooding in other places. And why do you think, with all of this happening, the United States decided to take the oceanic equipment out that monitors sea levels, El Ninos, tidal pools, and also ocean temperatures? Why did they take that out? Because Project 2025 said they don't want us worried about or being aware of climate change. I'm frustrated because this is our kids' future. These same babies that they keep telling us that they want us to have, what world will they be left in? Everything is on fire, and the world is trying to put it out. Maybe I'm a little excited, but still, god damn.
Hi, hello. Allow me just a moment of your time for me to yap about my concerns that we as a collective are not necessarily taking these storm warnings as seriously as maybe we should. They are talking about a super El Nino brewing, and people keep saying, oh, but El Nino years happen every 2 to 7 years. Yeah, first of all, those are still pretty bad. Second of all, this is not that. This is a super El Nino. My understanding is that we have not seen something like this as a collective for about 144, 200 years. My understanding as well about the last time was that it wasn't just the storms and the erratic weather that killed people. Droughts and famines, because of those weather patterns being all disrupted, killed people. So it's not just the storms and the power outages and the panic that gets caused by that. It is lasting. And so when we're sitting here, the people who've lived through storms probably understand the severity. Ike, Harvey, Katrina. If your life was disrupted by a storm, you probably understand. But those who haven't may not get it yet. When we're saying get food, get water, make sure your gas tank is half full or fully full. Get a life straw. When the power goes out, or when the taps go out, or when the taps become contaminated, there is no time to fix it, to go to a store. Honey, the roads are closed. Same thing with your gas tank. When the power goes out and it's 100+ degrees, all of a sudden your car becomes crucial to be able to sit in it while the AC pumps, because it's the only AC that you're going to have access to. Please get the necessary camping type stuff that is going to keep you alive and keep your family safe. If you have pets, if you have babies, please have water. Please have water and a full gas tank. Good luck out there. Be safe.
Could we see the strongest El Nino in 150 years? My honest answer to that is yes. It is certainly a possibility. I promise I'm not exaggerating. I'm not hyping this at all. Actually, it is the median forecast when you combine all of our computer models, all of our ensembles for the fall and early winter. They are forecasting an event about equal to, if not even slightly stronger than, the famous event back in 1877, which unleashed all kinds of extreme climate events across the world. Hey, everybody, I'm Chief Meteorologist and Climate Specialist Jeff Baradelli. Let's dig right in and show you what's happening. First of all, this is one of our computer models, and it kind of is, I would say, an average of many computer models, showing very strong warming in the eastern tropical Pacific Ocean of about 3 to 4 degrees above normal. And that's about as strong as El Niños get. Now, at the present time, water temperatures are around 1 degree Celsius above normal, which kind of qualifies it already for an El Nino. So everything is already happening that leads us to believe that this is going to be a super El Nino. Looking back over the past 170 years, you can see all the red spikes are El Ninos, all the blue spikes are La Niñas, and one of them that really sticks out is the 1877 event. That was about plus 2.7 degrees Celsius above normal. Back in 2015, we had another one that was about the same as that. But really, the 1877 event was a little stronger. But the forecast for the end of this year is plus 2.8 to plus 2.9. That's the median forecast. Now, it's not exactly to apples because the Pacific is warm due to climate change. And so it's easier to achieve a plus 2.7 to plus 2.9 than it was back in 1877. But in terms of absolutes, this is going to be on par, we think, because we see it happening right in front of our eyes right now. What you're looking at are current subsurface heat anomalies in the central and eastern Pacific. And you can see how those really warm anomalies, extremely warm, actually, like 15 degrees Fahrenheit above normal in certain spots, those are migrating to the east right now and coming to the surface. And so it's taking all that warm water in the western Pacific and bringing it to the eastern Pacific. And with that comes the convection. And it's also causing that pent-up heat that's stored deep in the Pacific to be released into the atmosphere. That invigorates the subtropical jet stream. That convection releases all that heat, and that warms the earth. And by the way, it throws climate patterns off kilter and causes lots of extreme weather. The other thing it does is it raises the global temperature. Now, already over the past 10 years, we've seen our past 10 warmest years on record globally. El Nino typically adds about 0.2 of a degree Celsius, sometimes slightly more than that. So we think 2026 may be in line to beat the record. And we certainly think that 2027 is likely to be the warmest year on record, probably by a long shot.
A climate monster is currently stirring in the Pacific Ocean, and forecasters are already dusting off a daunting nickname, Godzilla El Nino. The Godzilla term was first popularized during the massive 2015-2016 El Nino event, which was one of the strongest on record. Meteorologists warned the lagging effects of this developing system could make 2027 the hottest year in history. After years of unusually wet conditions driven by La Niña, areas that are used to seeing rain are going to flip to not seeing enough water. For Australia, this tilts the odds towards warmer, drier conditions across the north and east, bringing increased risk of drought and heightened bushfire threats. And here is the major concern. Because the world is already running hot, Australia's National Science Agency warns this could collide into a perfect storm of amplified risk for communities. Are we prepared for a Godzilla El Nino? Let us know what you think in the comments and head to news.com.au for the full breakdown.
Well, it's officially here. US meteorologists declaring El Nino is now underway, and it could be a big one, potentially the strongest ever recorded. But what even is El Nino and why does it matter? Well, grab a thermometer because it's all about warmth and what that does to the weather. Forget man-made climate change for a moment. El Nino is a natural climate cycle linked to warm water spreading westwards across the Pacific. Warmer water expands, so you can see it moving across the Pacific in these satellite images of sea surface height. This shift shuts down currents in the western Pacific that typically draw water down into the depths. The growing blob of warm water at the surface transfers its heat and moisture to the atmosphere, and that's how we feel El Nino's effects. And they can be profound. Most consistently leading to floods and heat waves in southern America, drought in Australia and Southeast Asia, and southern Africa. But it also straightens out the jet stream. On the plus side for the US, that quietens Atlantic hurricanes. But it also means wetter winters in the southern US and potential flooding in California. Impacts further away here in Europe and Asia are less predictable, but almost certain because El Niños drive up global temperatures. Overall, that intensifies weather when it happens. Storms have more power, there's more rain when it falls, and heat waves are that bit hotter. And the stronger the El Nino, the higher those temperatures can go. And US forecasters think this one could be just that.
We have a 63% chance of being in a very strong El Nino condition, which would be that the sea surface temperatures in the Pacific are more than 2 degrees centigrade above normal. That would put us, within about the top 10 events since 1950. We're much more confident in being in that very strong, and it's almost certain to be in a strong event.
Previous record hot years like 1998, 2016 were linked to strong El Niños, records consigned to the history books by man-made global warming. Now, the combination of that and this El Nino means 2027 will likely be the hottest year in history, with some of the most eventful weather to boot.
Hotter than normal temperatures, a potentially strong El Nino, and a quiet Atlantic hurricane season. Hi, my name is Brittany. I'm a meteorologist with WeatherBug. Let's talk about what to expect for the rest of summer weather-wise. So let's first start with the temperature outlook. If you're highlighted in some kind of warmer tone color, so we have kind of like a light orange, and then it turns to red, you are likely going to see above normal temperatures. So if your average temperature for the month of July is 90 degrees, you are likely going to see temperatures a little higher than that for the course of July, August, and September, more specifically the Pacific Northwest. That's where the highest odds of seeing above normal temperatures will be. In this blue shading, that's where the potential of below normal temperatures will be, so portions of Iowa, Missouri, Illinois, it's not a huge chance, but overall, during the months of July, August, and September, you could see some days where your temperature is not as hot as it usually is. In terms of precipitation for these months, a lot of us have equal chances of seeing just normal precipitation during this time, but if you're in any sort of green color, you could see some above normal precipitation, and then that orange-brown color indicates below normal precipitation amounts. Another big thing that we talk about during the summer months, of course, is hurricane season. A big thing that is influencing not only hurricane season, but will really influence our weather, especially for the winter months, is the El Nino. We're forecasting a potentially very strong El Nino as we head later into the year, but in terms of July, August, September, we are starting to trend towards a stronger El Nino. NOAA is forecasting a below average hurricane season for the Atlantic Basin, which is over here and over here, versus an above average season for the Pacific Basin, which of course is in the Pacific Ocean. Now, if we just look over the next couple weeks at the time of this video, notice where you see this brown shading in the Atlantic Basin. What does that mean? It means that the forecast for the Atlantic Basin is calling for below average rainfall probability, so no tropical development is expected here over the next couple weeks in these areas. Bottom line is it's going to be a hot summer and hopefully quiet in terms of any tropical activity.